Imagine a time when the world's greatest empires bowed to the influence of a single continent, when scientific, spiritual, and architectural marvels originated from the heart of Africa, echoing through the ages to shape the world as we know it today. For over 15,000 years, Africa was the cradle of civilization, the beacon of knowledge, and the epicenter of global power. How did this happen? Why did Africa, with all its glory and wisdom, suddenly vanish from the spotlight? This is the untold story of Africa's rule over the world and its lasting impact on humanity. Stay with us, because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about history. Our story begins along the fertile banks of the Nile, more than 5,000 years ago. Long before the pyramids rose from the sands of Egypt, early African societies had mastered agriculture, mathematics, and medicine. While Europe remained in the throes of the Stone Age, the African continent was flourishing, with cities like Nubia, Tessidi, and Kemet, ancient Egypt, developing advanced systems of governance, trade, and spirituality. Ancient Egypt, or Kemet as it was known to its people, was a land where science and spirituality thrived together. The Theban kings of Upper Egypt waged strategic campaigns to unify the land, expelling the Hyksos invaders in 1546 BCE under Pharaoh Thutmose III. This marked the beginning of Egypt's 18th dynasty, a golden age that saw the world's most enduring monuments constructed, including the majestic temples of Luxor and Karnak. Pharaoh Thutmose III, whose mother was a Sudanese Nubian, extended Egypt's influence far beyond its borders. Under his reign, Egypt's armies marched through Western Asia, the Mediterranean islands, and deep into Africa. Kingdoms like Babylonia, Cyprus, Crete, and even the Mitanni were reduced to vassals of Egypt. At its height, Egypt's empire stretched from Nubia in the south to the far reaches of northern Asia, displaying the unmatched prowess of African leadership. Egypt's dominance wasn't just in military might, it was also intellectual. The Amarna letters, discovered in the office of Pharaoh Akhenaten, reveal a world where kings and princes from across the Near East wrote to the pharaoh in desperate pleas for peace, grain, and gold. Egypt's influence was undeniable, and its status as a superpower remained unchallenged for centuries. Egypt, however, was not just a land of warriors and kings. It was a land of thinkers, philosophers, and scientists. The ancient Egyptians were pioneers in medicine, astronomy, and engineering. They developed complex calendars, performed surgeries, and devised a number system that laid the foundation for modern mathematics. And yet, Egypt was just one of the many African civilizations that contributed to humanity's progress. According to historian Edward Shore, the ancient blacks, stretching from Upper Egypt to India, were master builders, scholars, and priests who crenellated the mountains of Africa, Caucasia, and Central Asia with gigantic cities. Their spiritual practices, based on the divinity and unity of the universe, laid the foundation for what later became known as Sabaeanism among other cultures. But what truly set Africa apart was its spiritual and philosophical depth. While the rest of the world was still grappling with polytheism and localized deities, Egypt, under the rule of Pharaoh Akhenaten in 1378 BCE, became one of the first civilizations to embrace monotheism. Akhenaten's daring introduction of a single god, Aton, reshaped Egypt's spiritual landscape and hinted at a profound philosophical evolution that would later influence religions worldwide. Yet, as with all great empires, complacency became Egypt's Achilles' heel. The reign of Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, marked the beginning of Egypt's decline. A pacifist at heart, Akhenaten's reluctance to engage in war left Egypt vulnerable to external threats. His abandonment of the warlike tradition of his ancestors allowed rebellious states and aggressive foreign powers to challenge Egyptian dominance. By 1230 BC, Egypt found itself facing great migrations and invasions from all directions. The Sea Peoples, a confederation of maritime raiders from the Aegean, began pressing Egypt's borders. While Pharaoh Merneptah managed to fend off these invaders temporarily, the damage had been done. Egypt's grip on its vast empire was beginning to slip. After Merneptah's victories, the captives taken were transformed into slaves, and many settled in Egypt. The demographic and cultural landscape of Egypt was changing, leading to further internal strife and fragmentation. But the African story of power did not end there. The Nubians from the heart of Sudan took up the mantle of leadership once more. They viewed themselves as the true heirs to the throne of the pharaohs. The Nubian pharaohs, like Pi and Taharka, restored Egypt's ancient glory in the 8th century BCE, building magnificent temples and reviving African spirituality and culture. These black pharaohs, as they were known, ruled not just Egypt, but commanded respect across the known world. Their reign marked a brief yet powerful resurgence of African dominance over the Mediterranean, displaying that African leadership was far from extinguished. Yet, the story of Africa's leadership doesn't end with Egypt or Nubia. From the libraries of Timbuktu to the walls of Great Zimbabwe, Africa's influence continued to shake the world long after the fall of its great empires. The Greeks, under Alexander the Great, would conquer Egypt in 332 BCE, only to be supplanted by the Romans in 49 BCE. These civilizations absorbed, adapted, and spread African knowledge across their empires, leaving a lasting legacy. Today, as we witness a rapidly changing global landscape, one thing remains certain: the echoes of Africa's past are still with us. From the scientific principles developed by African scholars to spiritual practices that have permeated global religions, the world continues to be shaped by Africa's ancient wisdom and leadership. But the question remains, will Africa rise again to reclaim its place as a global leader in the future? As we stand on the brink of a new era, with global power dynamics shifting once again, we must look back to look forward. Africa's ancient civilizations remind us that greatness is not a fixed point in time, but a cycle that is perhaps waiting to be reborn. What can we learn from these 15,000 years of history? And more importantly, what does this ancient legacy tell us about the future of our shared human story? Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration of Africa's incredible history insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that unveil the hidden truths of our world.